Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. Happy to get you up to date. We're going to be live next Monday, and we'll give you that information in a moment. But next week's schedule is going to change slightly. If you have a question, write it in the comment field below the live feed, and happy to get to as many as we can this afternoon. Going directly to the Duchess dashboard, duchessny.gov, our dashboard. We've conducted over 144,000 COVID-19 related tests here in Duchess County, with now 4,944 total confirmed cases over these last now 6 months. Currently, we are observing 6 individuals in local hospitals, with 153 having succumbed to the disease. We are, as a region, still at that 1% infection rate, which has really been the expectation if we could hold to that 1%. We have seen some increases in Westchester and Rockland, but nothing that is alarming people, just that it's keeping us at that 1%. Now, statewide, the infection rate has been below 1%. There are certain areas that have seen a bit of a spike, some mostly related to college-related positive cases in those regions. We are not seeing any area of alarm here in Duchess County at this rate. We haven't identified any clusters of concern, and the infection rate, as we mentioned, remains at 1%. We do expect, and we've said this before, we do expect that we will see continued cases. Now, again, it's not necessarily positive cases that triggers any area of concern. It's just a tracking mechanism, right? We're monitoring positive cases. If they become severe and hospitalizations increase, that's an area of concern for us. We just are not seeing that at this point in time. But we do need to remain as vigilant as we can. Remember, we are asking, again, to follow the basic expectations, and it is about being considerate to one another's health. It's the physical distancing, it's the personal hygiene, and of course, we ask you to continue, when appropriate, to wear a face covering. And taking these steps will continue to keep our infection rate down and positive cases to a minimum. Some update to the travel advisory. Remember, the state of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut have established these travel advisories. There are 34 states plus the territory of Guam that are on the list. Added back to the list recently are the states of Delaware, Ohio, Maryland, and West Virginia. And the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico are off the list, and we'll just continue to monitor those. Remember, if you are traveling to one of those states or you're coming from one of those states, New York State does require you to complete a form acknowledging that travel, and they do expect that you will self-quarantine for 14 days. If you are deemed essential, meaning you have some essential work, and again, we don't like that term, but if there's some reason that you'd have to go right back to work, there is a testing requirement, and you can find all of that information at duchessny.gov and visit our COVID-19 resource tab, and you'll be given some additional information. We continue to monitor cases related to college activity here in the county. The state is monitoring colleges, state SUNY schools as well. You can follow college information, SUNY college information. The state has launched a SUNY dashboard. That's important to note. But as of this point, in Duchess County, we are not pointing to any areas of concern. Bard, Duchess Community College, Marist, Vassar, and the Culinary Institute all have resources you can find on their websites, and we are tracking and monitoring those as well. No outbreak or area of concern at any of those colleges at this point. We're asking certainly students and faculty to observe the basic expectations, but as of this point in time, no area of concern in any one of those colleges. Students are doing a relatively good job adhering to those guidances, with some exception, and quite frankly, the administrations of those colleges are doing a good job responding to those exceptions. This week, for many, began a return to K-12, public schools, private schools, kindergarten to 12th grade. As you all know, obviously, overwhelmingly, schools have chosen to engage in virtual learning for a period of time, but there are districts that are returning to in-person and schools that are returning to in-person classes this week and next week. Most, as we said, are, however, conducting remote and virtual learning. Then, over a period of time, the expectation is these districts will transition to a hybrid model of education. You know that. My family's going through it as well. And we have children in preschool, middle school, and high school, and they all have different schedules. And we understand the stress that that's creating. The state of New York allowed districts to create their own plans. You know this. Those plans are now being put into effect. The county health department will continue to assist school districts. We do expect, certainly in particular in person, that there will be moments of concern. If there are positive cases, believe me, we have not only provided priority access to rapid testing, but there is a contact tracing program in effect and a rapid response team that the county is assigned to work with school districts. So we will react as appropriate as quickly as possible. You know that as we move forward in these next few weeks, people will be experiencing seasonal allergies. We'll enter into the flu season. There will be those moments where, obviously there'll be some concern, but we'll continue to monitor and work with school districts. Now, the State of New York Department of Health is publishing daily data on testing being done in schools across the state. That dashboard or that the data dashboard will exist on a website that is not yet live. Leave it to the state of New York to establish a priority mandate and then not have it up and running just yet, but it's not up and running just yet. That said, schoolcovidreportcard.health.ny.gov, because we like making things really confusing and complicated. It's schoolcovidreportcard.health.ny.gov. You can visit to keep an eye on testing at public schools, your school, K-12 school here in the state of New York. We pointed to it already. There is we all have those lists we get from schools, the things we have to purchase, priority and essential supplies. We like to throw this extra one out there. If you're watching, you can see, understanding and patience, high priority this year, and it's free of cost. So you don't have to spend any money to be more patient and more understanding, in particular with students. Your own kids. It's stressful enough. Believe me, we recognize for you and for our kids. Doing the best we can, being the best example we can to our kids is likely the best we can offer at this point, and try to lower those levels of anxiety. We recognize here in Duchess County the challenge that families are facing with sending kids off to school, some of that schooling being this hybrid model, not 5 days a week like we're used to, not full days like we're used to, or entirely at home. That has complicated your going off to work. We recognize that we can't and don't have a solution for all of our daycare and childcare options, but Duchess County did launch our COVID-19 Childcare Relief Scholarship. Applications are due to us no later than Friday, September 18th. We have leveraged federal dollars to make this available. This covers 75% of tuition for each child paid directly to the child care facility. And then, of course, the family is responsible for paying that 25% matching cost. And now, families with children of special needs will be prioritized. We recognize that there's a big challenge for providing service and access there, and you can find those applications at duchessny.gov. So our COVID-19 child care scholarship available. Applications are due to us no later than Friday, September the 18th. This is a short-term benefit and program that we're offering thanks to dollars we secured from the federal government. And are available to every resident of Duchess County based on an income scale that's created in under the federal standards. You can find that at duchessny.gov. Those residents who live in the city of Poughkeepsie don't qualify for the county program because the city of Poughkeepsie receives the same funding through the federal government and will be launching the same program. So we're not able to use those federal dollars. There's actually prohibition. We can't use those federal dollars in the city of Poughkeepsie because the city of Poughkeepsie receives those federal dollars directly, not in partnership with the county, and they will have a program that you can apply for as well. In the meantime, if you live in any other of the 29 municipalities in Duchess County, you can apply for this Child Care Relief Scholarship. If you have a question right now, please write it in the comment section below the live stream. Happy to get to as many as possible, but that Child Care Relief Scholarship is available to you. Also today, we announced today, Dutchess County announced a micro enterprise grant program. This is $430,000 that we leveraged from the federal government to assist small businesses negatively impacted by COVID-19. We're offering grants. These are not loans, grants up to $10,000, administered in partnership with Community Capital New York, using our Community Development Block Grant dollars. This is part of the CARES Act, and we were able to leverage these dollars. Now, in order to qualify, a small business in Dutchess County must have 5 or fewer employees, including the owner or individual. You must be located in Dutchess County's CDBG consortium. That's all the municipalities except the city of Poughkeepsie. Again, these federal dollars are also given to the city of Poughkeepsie. They're administering a similar program, but you must be a small business of 5 employees or less in Dutchess County. You must be a for-profit business. Not-for-profits not eligible for this particular grant program, and you must operate outside of a residential property. Again, all of these standards were negotiated with the federal government, and this is the program that we're offering in partnership with Community Capital New York. Additionally, you must have been in operation for 3 years. So since March of 2017, if you've been a small business for the last 3 years, you can participate. There are some businesses that don't qualify. For instance, an adult bookstore is one of them. But there are some businesses that don't qualify because of certain regulations. However, you can see those requirements at duchessny.gov, and these dollars cannot duplicate other financial assistance provided through the CARES Act. So, again, these are federal dollars we've been able to direct, and we are directing to small businesses. We recognize that small businesses, in these small businesses, are really the backbone of our local economy. We want to provide some assistance. We've leveraged $430,000 that we will distribute in grants up to $10,000, and you can find the information to apply at duchessny.gov, and we're hoping to be of some help to small businesses. Kim, why not open rapid testing sites, not just at urgent care? Because Dutchess County and county governments don't and aren't in the we don't have access to those tests per se. So you do have access to rapid testing at a number of urgent care sites. You have access to rapid testing at some pharmacies, and you should visit your CVS. Rite Aid and Walgreens are the ones of note that do have access to rapid testing. Additionally, you may have access to rapid testing at Pulse MD, which is a relationship that we have with them. You can visit duchessny.gov to get more testing information. But county governments, because there's widespread access to testing, the state of New York and the federal government not directing the creation of rapid testing sites. So those are the locations you have access to, and we're happy to direct you to them at duchessny.gov. Antoinette, when can pool tables be used? That is sadly a problem that the state of New York has to address. Today, the governor announced that indoor dining could begin in New York City at 25%, which is half of the capacity that they allow outside of New York City. We're hopeful that some of the last businesses that remain unopened, movie theaters, event venues, pool tables, and the like will open soon. It is a state of New York decision. They have the county has no authority to take action in that regard. However, if you're interested, you should reach out. Perhaps if we can provide some assistance through that micro enterprise business grant program, it might be an opportunity for you, and you might consider that. duchessny.gov. I know the challenge. Believe me, we want you open. And I say this often on the radio. We're asked when we talk about opening businesses, we make this decision. We give advice to the state based on health concerns. We feel it is safe to move forward with certain business reopening. We push on the state to do that. But it's not only about the business owner. And Antoinette, thank you. You are a business owner. We recognize the struggle that you have. But ladies and gentlemen, there are employees, people who rely on these businesses to be open in order to pay their bills and support their families. And so we're trying to the best we can to push up against the state to move on some of these things. We did get some businesses open a week or two ago. This, however, has been something the state has held out. Kathleen asks, can county give better guidance about indoor and outdoor gatherings? You've mentioned family gatherings, public organization meeting, private organization meetings, municipal meetings. Sadly, the state guidance is all over the place. I would be happy to give you better guidance if the state of New York gave better guidance, and they're not. Here's the basic expectation. Gatherings for events and social activities, family or otherwise, are still to be under 50 people. 50 people or under 50 people is the basic expectation for a social gathering. If you're going to a restaurant, they can operate at a 50% capacity. If you're going to a park, they can operate at basically 50% capacity with social distancing. I wish I could give you a better direction, but the base direction is if you're having a social event or community event or a gathering of some kind where everyone needs to come together at the same time to engage in that activity, it's still 50 people. But if it's a community event that's happening, for instance, all day long and people can come and go down the sidewalks and what have you, there's no limitation as long as you respect one another's distancing and wearing face coverings. So that is the expectation that the state has established. We'll continue to try to advise. But basically, again, if you're having a social event or family activity, it's supposed to be under 50 people. Otherwise, if they're all coming at the same time, same place, same location, that's the expectation. Deborah, why is it so hard to get COVID antibody test? That's a good question. There are healthcare providers that are providing access to antibody testing. Based on what we know, again, this is both conducted in part. This is basically conducted in partnership with private healthcare providers, and so those exist now. Again, PulseMD, Caremount, Nuvance all have access to antibody testing. You should reach out to your physician. Many can prescribe them, and therefore they're accessible to that degree. But if you're looking for free testing, that is relatively limited. But there are opportunities, and you can visit duchessny.gov for more information about that. Becca, any updates on a plan for Halloween? 2 or 3 weeks ago, somebody announced or asked if the governor was canceling Halloween. He's not, based on what we know, canceling Halloween. But what I can tell you is that at the moment, the state isn't giving any guidance, so we're going to give the base expectation, which is we expect that people will be able to engage in sort of basic Halloween, right? Kids could go out and trick or treat, but I would expect that there would be certain guidance. And again, how that gets enforced is mostly asking you to comply with a basic expectation, which is, again, not large groups going out. Will probably encourage people, not necessarily, maybe the candy's on the front stoop instead of going inside everybody's house. If you're giving out candy, you might want to wear a face covering or a mask that isn't a Halloween mask, but some sort of face covering. There will be those kinds of steps to take, and people will be expected just to make certain choices. That's the end of October. No additional guidance yet from the state of New York, but we're going to say to people, listen, just be respectful, limit the large events. I was talking to a village mayor the other day about their sort of Halloween parades and that sort of thing. I wouldn't expect that, but I wouldn't write off having a community trunk and treat where people could be socially spaced out, but you could still go sort of trick or treating. But and there are communities that are doing events like that. So we're going to advise that again, limit the total capacity. Obviously, smaller groups, try to engage in that social distancing, but having 200, 300 people come together in one place is not likely to be something that we're going to encourage or the state of New York is going to permit. And that is basically the guidance. But as we get closer to Halloween, if the state comes up with more, we'll tell you. Otherwise, we're going to continue to encourage what we know are some of the basic expectations. I do want to acknowledge that Monday was Labor Day. We recognize that. I hope that to the extent you enjoyed the longer weekend. A lot of things that we can do in the community, and visiting parks, visiting any number of our farms and what have you. But we also want to take an opportunity to recognize and thank all of those who have worked so hard these last several months. And we're hosting on September 23rd at 7 p.m. our Thank the Heroes Night at the Overlook Drive-In in the town of Poughkeepsie. We're showing Back to the Future, which is almost appropriate, if not ironic, but nevertheless, we could all benefit from going back to the future, or future to the past. I forget, back to the past. Anyway, you get it. Again, September 23rd, gates open at 7 p.m. The first 350 cars are welcome, and it's at the Overlook Drive-In in Poughkeepsie. We're thanking our frontline and first responders. It's a great opportunity for us just to say thank you to all those frontline workers, those first responders who sacrificed and sacrifice every day in service. And sacrifice is a big deal. These are individuals who give of themselves in service to us. We recognize and we're grateful for our first responders, law enforcement, emergency responders, and those frontline workers who have worked so hard these last few months and will continue to work hard for us. And this event is simply a way of us saying thank you to those heroes. First 350 cars, welcome. 7 p.m. gates open on September 23rd. Additionally, we launched with the county legislature and Chairman Greg Pulver, our Duchess Frontline Award. If you know someone in your life or in the community that is deserving of recognition, or an organization that is deserving of recognition for their service these last several months in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, visit duchessny.gov/DuchessFrontline. We're happy to and want to acknowledge and thank individuals who have been of service to us. Karen asks about the travel bans. Who do we have to listen to about quarantining, the CDC or Cuomo? Cuomo, the governor's executive order is the only thing that is that has the effect of law. It is not law, but it has the effect of law, meaning under New York State executive law, the governor is given the authority to issue a declaration of emergency and an executive order that has the force of law, and it is the governor's orders that do have effect here in the state of New York. The CDC guidance is guidance. It's a regulatory agency that provides guidance to us, to others, but again, just would be the same if I issued an executive order. My executive order would have the force of law and would be the thing that would affect Dutchess County residents, not the advice or guidance of the CDC. They have a different expectation on travel advisories, but the state governor's orders in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut do have the force of law. Jen, are preschoolers with disabilities attending school required to get COVID tested? That's a good question. There is no mandate by the state for COVID-19 related testing. Districts may have included that in their plans, but I do not believe any Dutchess County school district mandates COVID-19 related testing. Again, if they cannot, and certainly many cannot wear a mask, the expectation is that gets addressed between the school district, the teacher, the student, and the family. That is not a requirement that is made by the state or federal government, but it is something that you should at least ask. If your child is going back, my child, for instance, receives special education services. She will likely at some point return to in-person schooling in Red Hook, and that is a good question to ask what the district plan is and whether or not you have concern. And if you have concern, you certainly can have your child tested. If there's a concern regarding the teacher or the therapist providing those services, you should ask about that to know what your school district plan is and whether or not you're comfortable with it. And that's something that you can address together with them. Karen, what can she do to see her mother in a nursing home? Karen, I am sorry. We believe it is safe to engage in a broader access for nursing home visitation. Nursing homes entirely regulated by the state of New York, and the state has established what those regulations are for visitation. Some meet those requirements. Some have yet to meet those requirements. And I know that is a challenge. If you picket, do you need a permit? You don't. If you block a roadway, you'll be in trouble. But that said, if you have you want to, I hope you're not picketing me, but if you want to picket or protest, you have the right to do so under the Constitution. That is your right. You just want to be certain that you are aware of what those rules are in a local community. But believe me, we feel horribly for the families and the individuals who have been suffering without having that connection. I know how valuable it is. Believe me, I certainly know personally what it feels like to lose someone during this pandemic and not be with them. We think that there are safe ways to do visitation. The state has not broadened access as of yet. That is still very limited. Excuse me. Nicole, can we thank small businesses who waited patiently to reopen? Yes, two things. First, you're right to say that. We are very grateful to those businesses who have not only waited to be open, but sacrificed a lot. Some kept people employed. Some tried to work ways to keep their staff getting paid. And all of those sacrifices, very, very important, not only to the community, but to the individual. Additionally, if there's a business that you'd like recognized, you can visit duchessny.gov and nominate them for the Frontline Award. And it doesn't go to a panel. If you know of a business that has some specific has made some specific sacrifice, or you feel in your community is worthy of some recognition, feel free to nominate them, and we want to recognize them. So yes, absolutely. Someone is probably saying that I need water, which is true. But we do want to recognize businesses, not-for-profits, organizations, associations, individuals, families. Even if you were checking in on a neighbor, we want to recognize you. So visit duchessny.gov/Duchess Frontline, and we would very much want to recognize businesses that have sacrificed so much. And speaking of sacrifice, we recognize on Friday, September the 11th, we will, as a nation, pause for Patriot Day to acknowledge the supreme sacrifice and the lives lost on September 11, 2001. For those of us who are alive and lived through this horrible terrorist attack and the indiscriminate slaughter of individuals of all backgrounds, races, colors, and creeds, September 11th is seared in our memories. And for those who weren't alive then or were very young then, this is an important reminder that as a nation, just as prior to our entering World War II, when this nation was attacked at Pearl Harbor, this was the attack of innocent people on the homeland of America, something we had not experienced certainly since Revolutionary period. We didn't fight a war on our grounds, and here they brought it to New York and to Pennsylvania and to Washington, D.C., and we recognize the thousands of lives lost and subsequently in wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, so many lives lost. Well, Friday, September 11th, is the day this nation pauses, and rightfully so, to recognize those lives lost, to continue to express our condolences and sympathies to those families who live with those losses, and to say thank you to men and women from all aspects of emergency response, from law enforcement to fire and rescue, to court officers, to canines, to others in emergency response, dispatchers and otherwise, who run toward the crisis and did on September 11th, sacrificing themselves in the service of others. I know that we are living through a tumultuous time, and we are right to encourage all of us to do better. The men and women who sacrifice every day do so because they care about something bigger than themselves. And on September 11th of 2001, we saw so many first responders give of themselves and ultimately sacrifice their lives to respond. And I know that we will always remember, we ought to always remember that day and the struggle and the lives lost and the attacks against this country. Many communities will have events. Dutchess County will host again our 9/11 memorial ceremony. County Court Judge Peter Foreman will again host our 9/11 memorial ceremony at 8:30 a.m. Friday on the steps of the Family Court Building, which is on Market Street here in the city of Poughkeepsie. Judge Foreman and others will lead us in that ceremony. It is our moment here in Dutchess County. We come together for that purpose, and if you're interested in joining us, please understand there will be some social distancing. You will be asked to wear face covering 8:30 a.m. on Friday, September 11th. Thanks to Judge Foreman, we'll be again coming together to memorialize that moment and recognize those lives lost. Also, we should remember how this country came together in great unity. And it's not to say that we ignore our differences or the challenges or the problems that we face. It's just to say that there are so many things that bring us together, that we share more in common than that which divides us. And as a nation, in those moments after and even in the days and months after 9/11, we remained united in a focus of caring for one another. And this is our moment again to remember that yet one more time. So we ask that you take some time on your own to remember those lives lost. If you have a question, fill it in the comments section. You send that, add a question in that comment section below the live feed, and I'll be happy to try to answer a few more questions. Let's go through a few more things. As you know, both President Trump and Governor Cuomo issued executive orders asking and requiring police agencies and the municipalities responsible for those police agencies to review their policies and to reform and modernize their policing policies to address concerns of injustice, racism, procedural justice, and the need to be better in the delivery of those services. Now, Dutchess County's police agencies have been working collaboratively for years. However, we have established our police reform collaborative. That effort is being led by Sheriff Butch Anderson, Ken Roman from the Department of Emergency Response, and a series of work groups from community stakeholders that represent a broad cross-section of our community to police chiefs and municipal leaders, all engaged in a very comprehensive review of policies to really modernize and enhance the way in which we deliver law enforcement services here in the county. Now, we start from a very good, strong perspective: crisis intervention training, de-escalation training, mental health first aid, and other tools that law enforcement here in Dutchess County uses. However, we take very seriously our obligation to our constituents of all races and backgrounds. We recognize the need to confront the challenge of being better and in the delivery of service, and we're doing that. So our collaborative, as part of addressing the executive orders, will conduct a series of public forums. The first forum is scheduled for Saturday, September 12th, this Saturday, 3 p.m. This will be geared towards residents of the towns of Washington, Stanford, Pine Plains, Amenia, Northeast, Millerton, Millbrook, sort of that northeast quadrant, if you will, central to northeast quadrant of Dutchess County. And then the following Wednesday, September 17th, will be the next forum. If you're looking for the times and dates of all of them, you can visit dutchessny.gov/police forums. Happy to have your voice heard. So whatever your experience is, we want you to participate in those public forums and to have your voice heard. So please do join us on September 12th, or visit dutchessny.gov/police forums to get additional information. Corinne asks, when will senior centers be open? We don't know yet. At this point, it doesn't make sense to bring senior citizens together in that environment. So we're coming up with some additional creative ways to continue to provide services to seniors. We had a very successful senior drive-through picnic program throughout the summer. Right up in September, thousands of meals served. Very grateful for that, and very thankful to Todd Tancredi in the Office for the Aging staff for putting together a great experience. There'll be some other community events. I think we're doing Senator Serino's doing her Golden Gathering. That'll be a drive-through event. I think we're working hopefully on drive-through bingo or some drive-in bingo that we're going to have coming up soon. I look forward to that with seniors. So we are trying to come up with ways to continue to provide those services, just not the right time to reopen those in full, and so we're working out ways to make that happen. Brenda asked about the DMV in Millbrook. No plan yet to reopen the DMV in Millbrook because of the distancing needs. That particular office presents certain challenges, but do visit dutchessny.gov. County Clerk Brad Kendall and the services that you can access remotely are available to you at dutchessny.gov. Otherwise, it's scheduled appointments at the Wappinger and Poughkeepsie locations. Donna is noticing a lot of items missing from shelves. Is our region having problems getting certain items? This isn't regional, it actually is national, and you'll see it. A lot of national supply chains are still having difficulty getting items in particular from China and those Asian countries into a port here in America. That could be limitations on the West Coast, but there is still nationally a supply chain challenge, and there are certain items that just we're still tracking difficulty in getting here. I want to cover a few more items before we close up today. I want to note that the Department of Behavioral and Community Health is noting a slight uptick in rabies calls. I think I saw when we posted this on Facebook, somebody was saying something like, well, why are you telling us about this? We are actually seeing an uptick in rabies calls, bats in particular. Please take I'm only laughing because we have murder hornets, we have a pandemic, we've had hurricanes, tornadoes, and now rabies. We also have an asteroid that's hurling towards the country, and it's true. It's a small one, and it's supposed to hit us before Election Day. We have Election Day. It's like 2020 is the year that just won't give up. Yes, we are seeing an uptick in rabies calls, and we just would ask you to take precautions. In particular, do keep an eye out in areas like around air conditionings, awnings, eaves of your home, and make sure to get your pets vaccinated. I remember when I was mayor of Tivoli, I once accidentally said that we were having a pets vaccination and that you should be sure to get your pet and spouse vaccinated. That was an error on my part, but my wife would likely want me vaccinated. That said, Elizabeth, how do we address people mask shaming special needs kids? Stop doing it. Stop doing it. It is not necessary for you as a resident to point and shame others. Be kind to each other. If you see an area of concern, like you're going to a business and you regularly see that individuals are not meeting the use of mask expectations, you can reach out, visit the portal to make that concern known to duchessny.gov. We try to communicate with businesses and to individuals to adhere to the masking expectations. And again, businesses can choose to not provide service and simply come up with some accommodation. But you are correct, Elizabeth. Some people do have medical concerns. Some have disability concerns and just can't use a face covering. It is appropriate to allow that, but you also have to understand that doesn't mean you can just go into a business and start taking things off the shelf. So there are accommodations that need to be made. They need to be reasonable accommodations, and that can be addressed by alternate hours, drive-in, meeting you at the curb, things of that nature. The other is, the expectation is we ask you to wear a face covering when social distancing isn't achievable. So if you're at a park or you're on a trail or even on a sidewalk, if you're engaged in social distancing, there is not a mandate that you wear the mask at all times, but we do ask that you have it available to you and that you do wear it if you're coming in contact with or close proximity with individuals. We ask you to do that and to recognize that certain people can't. And it's just not necessary to be rude. It isn't. We are so consumed with pointing out the faults of others. Let's just encourage people to do the right thing. We will continue to do that. We believe in it. Yes, we do. We want you to take these steps to be safe, but be considerate of one another, and there is not a need to criticize or attack one another. What are local authorities doing about college parties? Donna, we're responding as we know. Most colleges are effectively responding to events, and we are not seeing an uptick in cases. We know that they're going to happen. We recognize there are two realities when it relates to college students during the time of COVID. Number one, college students will always act like college students, which means they will absolutely push up against their independence and ability to do things as they see fit. We know that. That's what half of going away to college is about. We're asking them, and their administrations are demanding as part of their code of conduct that they adhere to certain expectations. No big gatherings, no parties, no events of that nature. But we recognize that they're going to happen from time to time, and as they do, colleges are clamping down. Marist College has made clear they expelled or sent home certain students who engaged in a party activity. You saw other colleges do the same. All of our schools have a zero tolerance expectation when it comes to kind of adherence to these guidance or this basic guidance. It's just important that we try to adhere to that, and we do respond. And whether it's the health department, local police agencies, or the college, they are responding effectively. That covers most of what we wanted to hit on today. I don't know if there are additional questions. If there are, write them in that comment section below. If not, we're very grateful that you would participate again today. I think we've covered most of the things we wanted to address. I missed a page. Let's end with just a reminder. You're right. The 2020 census is underway. That census is constitutionally mandated. Federal government counts every individual in America. We're in the midst of it. If you have not completed your census, 2020census.gov. You may get visited by a census worker. They are trained to be safe. I understand. I've seen some public comments on our social media feed. It does turn out that they are instructed. If they go to a house and no one answers, and they go to your house and you answer, they are instructed to ask you, do you know how many people live in the house next to you? Because at the end of the day, it's either we get a direct count or we get a guesstimated count based on what a proxy, meaning someone else who knows, tells them. So they might ask you, well, your neighbor wasn't home. How many people live there? They're not prying. They're not planning a burglary. They are simply trying to get as many people counted as possible. And what they'll likely do is input that information, and the federal government Census Bureau will continue to try to reach out to that family via phone or email, or mail, to try to get that information verified. So please understand that. All the census workers trained by the U.S. Census Bureau, we hopeful that they're respectful and kind and polite. And we think that they are. But please engage in the census, get yourself counted, because it will determine not only representation in Congress, but the state legislature and the local legislatures, but also the distribution of billions of dollars of federal aid. And we want to be sure that every Duchess County resident is counted. And with that, we're grateful that you'd participate. In the meantime, stay safe, be healthy, and be kind to each other.